or civilian or what? What do you mean? External?
Okay, let me ask you another question then, now that you brought that to mind. In a situation where you have a military force acting against the government, there are three usual levels of people responsible. Number one, those who visionize the formation of the fighting group and give their financial support to it. Number two, the high command of the actual military wing that carries out that work. And number three, the foot soldiers that do the day-to-day community killing. In your opinion, of those three groups, how would you distribute responsibility and accountability for the damages done? Would you distribute it evenly amongst them, or would you give greater weight to one than the other?
I'll tell you something about this responsibility business. It's a very tricky area. When you talk about responsibility, you're being subjective. Because you don't know what quantity of the damage you can attribute to anyone. Secondly, who quantifies this as damage? Coming from which side? And so there are hidden hands. You said three groups. There could be 10, 15, 20 groups. Many of them could be the secret dimensions of what's happening. And most of the information we got was after the incident took place. You heard Dr. Famler giving you details of some of the organizers. So I think suffice to say that I don't know anybody else in terms of the organizers, etc., because I don't believe in rumors and hearsay. I like to prove things. I like to deal with evidence. Of course, you can intellectually analyze and speculate things. But when it comes to damages and apportioning damages to this person, that group, I think it's very subjective and risky. So I don't know. And accordingly, I don't know the foot soldiers. I mean, we saw some people, they arrested some people. I guess those were the foot soldiers. I don't know which ones escaped. So it's to me, you know, I wouldn't be truthful.
No, I'm not asking you to be truthful, be focused on. I'm just putting a scenario in front of you. Given a situation where A attacks B and A and B go to war. On A side, there are people who decide to organize their army and finance it. They are the high command, and they are the people who implemented the job. And on B side, the same thing. At the end of the battle, if one was to come in and say, let's assess the situation and put accountability, how would you, in your opinion now, see the way to distribute that responsibility?
It depends on what happened and who did what. You can't look at it global and say, oh, because somebody planned this thing, it means that he's responsible, or because you didn't see him in the front, he's not responsible. Okay? In the distribution of the responsibility, you have to look at who did what specifically. Because some group or an individual can move in somewhere in a violent way. Not all violence is illegal. And for example, the police, the military, if they're acting based on instructions and they're acting within the pale of the law, and violence is necessary or required to subdue, for example, a criminal, and in self-defense somebody shoots somebody, things like that, or in war people exchange bullets. People who have arms exchanging bullets towards each other. Of course, an act of violence, but I mean, it's an incident. The other thing here is that when, for example, coup, that's the interesting thing about coup d'etats. When it fails, it becomes criminal. They arrest you. You commit treason. But when it succeeds, people run to you for positions, including those who should have been arresting you. Okay, so it's a historical and intellectual exercise. Okay, does the group that overthrew the government become legitimate? It depends on whether the international community will accept you. Okay, but that's a different discussion. So quite frankly, I think people should not be tempted to try to apportion general responsibility without looking at who did what specifically. If Kromah came in and he didn't kill anybody in his violence, or we don't have any proof, and he came in a way that it was purely military or mostly military, to engage a military opponent, would you say that the military people who got involved in it, obviously they were coming to violate a law, because at the time Doe had been accepted as head of state, and according to the laws, it's not the whole constitution. I think some portions were still operable. But would you say that they were not coming to commit treason? Okay, if you look at it in the framework of the law, so that's another aspect, it's a legal argument. But if you take it holistically, they were coming to commit treason. All right, so they were responsible for attempted treason. But if you look at it from the humanity point of view, with respect to whether the reaction to that was necessary and what was the nature of the reaction, then you have to look at its specificity to determine that. And that's a very serious responsibility, and that's one of the reasons why I think this TRC, we should look for more money to give to you so you can continue a little bit